Look at verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are these. They're manifest. These are the works of the flesh. Adultery, fornication, lasciviousness, uncleanness. I said that backwards. Uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like. Now, this is not something where I'm going to tell you to write that list on the wall and start trying not to do those things, because you'll be the rest of your life in a wrestling match that you cannot win. Those are not there to give you an agenda of things that you need to work on in your life. Those are there so that you can identify what's going on and what the source of your behavior is. Because if the source of your behavior is producing something, and I'll tell you what, notice that the next thing we're going to talk about is the fruit of the Spirit. We got the works of the flesh and the fruit of the Spirit. Works are something you do. Works are something that you're involved in. It's your energy is given to. Fruit is something that naturally happens. If you're living in the flesh, it will produce this. This is a way for you to know where you're living. And I've been studying these things for 30 years. I know every one of those words in the Greek. I know where they came from. I know the ancient word structure. I've looked at them and looked at them and looked at them. I have a book called Flesh and Spirit. I just loaned it out the other day to someone because we had the discussion about, they're trying to blame the demons for the adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft. I said, no. You can clean every demon out of town. If you could just think with me for a minute, I know, just take every single one of them, and just for a second, just think if they were all gone, there wasn't another one anywhere in Central Oregon, you're still going to have people, because of what's in them, because of what's inside, because the old nature still lives in me, there's still going to be adultery, fornication, uncleanness, and lasciviousness. It's still going to be happening because the problem is in you. The problem is in you. If you don't get to the point of recognizing, hey, this is going on in me. And here's a great truth. You're not going to believe this. Some of you are going to be upset. You can't cast out the flesh. You can't cast out the flesh. Every one of you have flesh living in you today. Some of you have had the flesh rise up this week and do things that are absolutely discouraging to you. When will this ever go away? It will never go away. The flesh is not going to leave. It's a part of who you are. Paul, great apostle of God, in the 7th chapter of the book of Romans, when you get home, look that up. He said, this is what I've noticed. He said, the things I want to do that I really feel like are God's will for my life, I never get done. I never get that done. I'm always failing at the thing. I wanted to do it. I said I was going to do it. I raised my hand in the service. I answered the altar call. I went to do. I signed up for the trip. I didn't do it. And those things I don't want to do, those things I said last week, this is the last time I'm ever going to do it. I'm never doing that again. Oh, God, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Please cleanse me. I'll never do it again. I'm not going to go there. I do it again. And then Paul, identifying with everybody in this room, said, oh, wretched man that I am. Wretched man. Stinking flesh man that I am. Who will deliver me from this body of death? Is there any way out of this? I'm here to start a fight. I'm here to start a fight. I said this, it just came to me last week or 2 weeks ago, and some of my boys were hanging around, and I said, I just realized something. I'm going to start a fight. I'm going to start a fight between your flesh and your spirit. Jesus said in John chapter 6, the words I speak, he said, the flesh profits nothing, but the words I speak to you, they are spirit and they are truth. I looked that up again this morning. Guess what he said? To all of you who are interested in what the Greek says, he said, listen, your flesh, your lower nature, your carnality produces nothing good. The flesh profits nothing, but the words, the rhema, The rhema. You know, rhema, there's two words in the Greek for word. One is logos, which means the printed word, which is powerful. And the other is rhema. That means what God is speaking right now to you. Jesus said, what I'm telling you right now is powerful. It is spirit and it is truth. Wait a minute. What did I say? What am I getting to? Listen, the Bible says in Galatians, if you walk in the Spirit, you will not fulfill the lusts of the flesh. Where does it say that? Let's look at it. Galatians 5. Okay? Verse 16. This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these two are contrary. They're against one another. They're at war, and you cannot do the things you want to do. Not because you're just walking in the flesh, because you haven't settled the war. You haven't decided which way you're going. One day you're thinking about following Jesus, hearing the Spirit. You know what God said. He gave you a word. Listen, He will give you a word. God will speak into your life. And what you do with that word will determine whether or not you see the fruitfulness of that word. You can be like the children of Israel who were in Egypt. And God delivered them from Pharaoh. And they came through the Red Sea. And God delivered them with a powerful deliverance. And His intention was for them to cross the wilderness, go to the promised land, have everything that God, they call it the promised land because God promised it to them. God promised it to Abraham. Abraham knew 435 years before that those people would be there, but they would come out, that God would take them to that land. It was the promised land. They were the promised people. God's people on the way to the promised land. Did they make it to the promised land? They got right up to the river, and they let fear stop them. All the way through the wilderness, they complained. Oh, bad water, no food, not what I want, la-da-da-da-da. So let me just tell you what happened. They do not get what God intended for them to have. Was it God's will for them to cross the river? Yes. Did they cross the river? No. Does God have a promised land for you? Do you automatically go there? No. Listen, salvation is free, but your promised land will cost. The kingdom in the New Testament is the same as the promised land in the Old Testament. Jesus said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. That's seek ye first the promised land in your life. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, the reign of God, the authority of God. Seek first to be controlled by God. Everything that I'm telling you today is how you're going to overcome the flesh. You're not going to overcome the flesh by struggling, trying to grab it by the throat. I heard T.D. Jakes say a few weeks ago, we're fighting a battle. You battle all week. Sometimes you've got it by the throat. Sometimes it's got you by the throat. We all know what that's about. But that's not where the battle is won. I need to refer back a couple of weeks ago when I said it's not about your performance, it's about your posture. Have you really decided to go into the promised land? Or are you willing to wander for the next 40 years? Wander? Wander? They were led of God. Listen to me. Don't impress me with God's presence. I'm not impressed with that. I don't care if you're led of God or not. You may be led of God for 40 years, wandering around in a circle. Never going to see the promised land. You get manna. God's providing. Look at what a wonderful testimony. God's providing for me. I see God's presence over here. I got a cloud. I got a fire. We win against the enemy. You do all that stuff, but you never see the promised land. I grew up around Christians my whole life that had a call on their life and did not go into their promised land. Am I starting a fight? I'm starting a fight. I'm picking a fight. All over this room, there are people who God told you. He gave you a word. He sent you on a destiny, and you have decided that you don't have to, won't have to, not going to go there. I'm picking a fight.